got stuck. Oh. Look at there. Where there is some crazy lady, oh my God, like in this picture, screaming, "Women are better than men," and then proceeding to go on a 2-hour-long speech on why men suck. And hopefully, many of you by now have realized that this is most definitely not feminism. And so there have been several misconceptions about feminism due to actions such as these, where people believe that the goal of feminism is just to mistreat men and say that women are better than men. And today, I would like to clear up that that is incorrect. So, with the misconceptions, where do these misconceptions come from? Oh, the roof is leaking. So, these misconceptions usually come from the throwing around the word sexist. And so nowadays, especially on social media, the word sexist is thrown around in, like, I forgot the word, oops, in insignificant situations where people completely ignore or diminish the strong meaning of this word. And so some women who consider themselves feminists take an insignificant action, such as a man entering a building before a woman, and then not holding the door open for her, as sexist. Crazy. This is such an insignificant little action. But these feminists consider it sexism, when in reality, it's not. The man was probably just late to work. What really is sexism is when a man shames a woman or blames a woman for getting raped due to how intoxicated she was or how revealing her clothing were, saying that she was asking for it. Or in extreme cases, oh my gosh, when girls do not have access to an education just because they have different reproductive organs. And then that obligates them to stay at home and take care of their siblings and clean the house. Now that's sexism. And that's what feminism is really fighting against. What I mentioned before, oh my God. What I mentioned before was sexism directed towards women by men. And that's what feminism is fighting against. But if we take a look at the other way around, sexism directed towards men by women, that has become the main misconception about feminism. The belief that feminism is the mistreatment of men, where women are just saying that they're better than men, that men are disgusting monsters. That's the main misconception of feminism that I would like to clear up. What I cannot emphasize enough is that feminism is trying to give everyone equal access and equal opportunities, to diminish and just abolish the oppression and discrimination against women, where both genders have the same opportunities, can make the same choices, and have the freedom of choice. Just like the word sexist, the word feminist and feminism are thrown around. And that's where the main misconception of feminism begins. Some women, as I mentioned before, consider themselves quote-unquote feminists. However, they're not really feminists. They use the word feminism to hide their sexism and excuse their mistreatment for men. These feminists consider body shaming and sexually assaulting women completely unacceptable. However, then, when these same actions are done to men, they completely ignore it. Like in the Oscars, when some actors who were male were being touched without their consent. If this would have happened to female actors, the social media would have gone crazy. When in reality, people should not be accepting either case. If a person is sexually assaulted, body shamed, etc., regardless of their gender, it should not be done. And that's what feminism is trying to do. Make sure no one gets body shamed, no one gets oppressed, no one gets discriminated, everyone has free choice and free opportunities. Now, as I explained before, these feminists, quote-unquote feminists, are just hiding their sexism, their mistreatment behind the word of feminism, which completely undermines the meaning and goal of feminism. Because when the public sees the actions of these so-called feminists, they're like, well, why would I support feminism if it's just mistreating men? So they hold back on the progress of this movement, because they're like, I don't want to be oppressed. Like a man would say, I don't want to be oppressed. Why would I want feminism to progress? And so they hold back on the progress of feminism just because of these misconceptions and these misbeliefs due to the actions of these so-called feminists, the hypocrisy of these so-called feminists. When in reality, they should be letting feminism progress, make it flourish and achieve its goal. Because in reality, feminism is trying to achieve equal ground for both genders, where none of them are oppressed, none of them are judged, none of them are mistreated. That's the real goal of feminism. Again, I really have to emphasize it. Feminism is not women saying they are better than men. That's not what it's about. It's not just switching the roles of discrimination with now women being better and men being the oppressed group. That's not what it's about. And these so-called feminists are really ruining that because they're making the public believe that that is what feminism is about. And so it completely blurs the actual meaning and the actual goal of this important and essential movement. Which brings us to the question, if that's not feminism, then what is feminism? Well, as I explained a few times before, feminism is really free choice for women, where women can make the choice that they want without the restrictions, without the limitations of oppression, of social roles, etc. Let's say a woman wants to be a CEO, and this is a very first world example. What this movement hopes to achieve is that that woman doesn't have restrictions, doesn't have to work harder than the man to get the same position. Where this movement wants to give access and to the opportunities that would allow her to get that same position. However, the movement doesn't want to give the woman the role immediately just because she's a woman either. Because then that would just be switching the roles. Then the men wouldn't get the same position just because they're a man. Instead, they would favor the woman just because she's a woman. But, as said before, the movement wants to remove those obstacles, remove the pay gap, remove the woman not having access to education that would limit her from developing her skills to apply for that position. What the movement really wants to do is for both genders to be able to apply for that position. And they would be judged on their skills and capabilities for that position, not on their gender. And prior to applying that position, the movement wants to give them both the opportunity to develop the skills that would benefit them for getting that position, such as education. Just give them both the access to those opportunities. Along with that, feminism wants to open the eyes of women, break the bubble of oppression, break the bubble of social roles, educate them on the variety of possibilities they can make, and give them access to make those choices. Where a woman can choose if she wants to be a housewife, but she can also get a job. She can wear clothes that cover her body, or she can wear revealing clothes. And the movement wants to help apply this to every choice a woman makes, where she can make that choice without restrictions, without limitations, and without judgment. That's what feminism is really about. So, I just touched on a part of the misconceptions of this huge topic of feminism. And I would like to leave you with this. And although I have been repeating the same thing over and over again, I believe that it must be emphasized. Feminism is really just wants to give women the freedom of choice. And it wants to make everyone, regardless of their identities or the identities they hold, that they can have access to the opportunities to make the choices that they want to make and show them the choices that they can make. So, to the men in the audience, when that crazy woman is yelling at you, saying that men are monsters, relax, because that's not feminism, that's sexism. Thank you.